Welcome. This is the third Isegoria session, and especially welcome to the viewers from all over Europe and hopefully all over around the world. So this is the third Isegoria session. Isegoria is a Greek word and it means equality in speaking. It means that everyone gets the same time to speak and express their opinion. And with that in mind, we organized these three sessions. This is an initiative from DiEM25 members. And what we aim to do is to give the space to all the candidates to present their standpoint and why they're running for the SCC, what they will do to make DiEM25 even better. We want to see the candidates interacting with each other live and answer any questions from the viewers. This is the third time we do it, but this whole initiative is it's the first time that happens something like this in DiEM25. So any miscalculations, we ask for your patience. Let me stress once again that this comes from the base of the movement, and it is by no means aiming at replacing current procedures for running for the CC. We're just members who want to see and hear from the candidates. So in this session, we're joined by Andrea Pisauro, who is from the UK, NC. We are joined by where's my list? By Eleonora, which is a former member of the NC of Italy. Jacques, who joins us from France, from Lyon, DSC, and Silvia, who is a member of the Netherlands, who is coming from the Netherlands, is a member of the DSC Amsterdam. Before we start, Mikel was a candidate on the previous candidate that joined the previous Isegoria session, but we were not able to see him. So now we managed to make the video work. So Mikel, got a minute to say hi?
Okay. Yes. Buonasera a tutti. Kalimera. Just to thank the organization to allow us this paresia, to use another Greek word, and I think we should multiplicate this kind of initiative because you know, we always say be the change you want to see, and this is what we want to see in all Europe. Confrontation about the future of Europe, about what Europe can be, thanks to our engagement and our time that we dedicate for a social and green Europe. And yes, just I want to say again that I'm presenting my candidacy especially to help in organizing citizen assemblies as a preparation of the referendum and the constitutional assembly that we propose in our initial DiEM25 manifesto. Ciao to everyone. Thanks. And have a good debate.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. This session is structured the same way as the previous two were structured. First, we will have the candidates, we will give each candidate a couple of minutes to present themselves and briefly talk about their candidacy and their vision for DiEM25. Then we will focus on two main issues. First, the Green New Deal for Europe, and second, the inner workings of DiEM25. So in these two sessions, we will ask the candidates some questions, but we also encourage those who watch us online to ask their own questions, and we also encourage the candidates to interact with each other. And finally, we will have some closing remarks, and hopefully we'll be finished in less than 2 hours. As a reminder, this is not a competition. This is a very friendly discussion. And so let's start with hearing from you. Jacques, do you want to start?
Why not? So I'm very glad to be here and welcome the debate which will be held between us. I've been involved in GM25 from the very beginning in 2016, and I created the DSC Lyon, and then held workshops on GM25 during the Nuit Debout in Lyon. And then I became later on a member of the provisory national collective, and then I was elected at the national collective, French national collective. So why I was interested and attracted to GM25 is because I've always been European at heart, and I've been working on European projects, especially together with the trade unions and the governments and employers organization on anticipation of economic change and social dialogue throughout Europe. So that's what interests me. And then later on, I was working in the humanitarian aid in Central Africa. So I'm very well aware of the global issues we have to face, and why Europe is a strong and democratic Europe is necessary in order to face these challenges. So when GM25 appeared, I joined immediately, and I think it's very much worth it to you know, be an activist in GM25. Okay.
Great, thanks. Andrea. You are all on mute, so you should unmute yourself first. Or I can do it. No, you can.
No, don't need. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
So hi everyone, I'm talking from Oxford, where I work as a researcher, and I am a member of the UK National Collective of GM25. I joined the movement back in 2017. I remember I had the luck to attend the launch both in Italy and the UK, because I was in Italy for Christmas, and then I went back to the UK, and they were 3 days apart. And I saw the movement growing in the past 2 years. Last May in 2018, I was elected in the National Collective in the UK. And since then, I've been working here to grow our movement. At the time I was in Glasgow, I started a DSC there. Then I moved to Oxford, we started a DSC here. We tried to strengthen the network and also to be active on the issues that we face here. So we launched this campaign called Take a Break from Brexit that I coordinated in the past year. And I can tell you something about it later. I guess there are 3 main reasons why you want to stand for the coordinating collective. The first one is linked to what we have been doing in the UK in the last year. And I want to coordinate it better with what we are doing in the rest of Europe. We are working on this idea of having citizen assemblies on Brexit. We are going to present a proposal at the Labour Party conference in September. And we think this idea to hold citizen assemblies on this very complicated problem we have in Britain could be extremely important, both to stop the Tories' plans for a no-deal Brexit. Probably you will follow what's happening here, but also to inspire the rest of Europe to go towards more democratic tools to deal with the problems we face. The second reason is that I want to also work with Yanis Varoufakis, with Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell to try to challenge the neoliberal status quo in Europe. I think this will be particularly relevant for all of us if the UK will end up staying in the EU, because as I think most of us understand very well, the Labour Party could be a major force of change in the EU, an incredible ally for GM25. And finally, I feel this sense of, I don't know how to put it, but a moral obligation to relaunch what I think it's the first continental democratic political movement in the history of the world. And I think we need to do a lot of things to reform our movement, but I think our movement is very important. Specifically and very quickly, I would like to empower our members to let them decide our future strategy, to design campaigns at the pan-European level that can galvanize the members and get people to talk about the N25 and our ideas, and work towards a more functional, credible, and transparent organization. So I think we should take a break from pessimism and get it started, because it's very important.
Great, thanks. Silvia, you want to go next?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Thank you, Haris. Thank you all for organizing this debate. And I think that there will come some interesting things out of it. I'm a member of DiEM25 since last year. Now I'm part of the Amsterdam DSC. I was also elected in the Dutch NC, but I resigned. Why am I candidate now for the CC? Because I think that DiEM25 has a lot of chances. We can answer a lot of challenges. The first thing that I notice is that we miss a real progressive left-wing movement in Europe. We have a lot of different nuances of rights, neoliberals, but we really miss the left. And I think that we can fill this gap now. I have some points or issues that I would like to follow if I am elected. I think that we need really to concentrate on concrete themes, on themes that really attract and interest 90% of the people. So we have to leave a bit our themes or issues that are more elitary and look at the society. What is society asking us? I'm interested especially in economy and in environment. I've been active in the environmental movement since I was very young, 23, 25. And at the time I was involved in a European forest action. I think that nowadays we also need some European forest action and much more. So economy, I think that it's important that we unite around the theme of eliminating the fiscal compact. I think this is one of the most important revolutionary ideas of DiEM25. But also I think that we have to concentrate our efforts against privatization, because nowadays what we have, we socialize losses and we privatize gains. So I think that there is a lot to do on that field against privatization, against the fiscal compact, against this new European stability mechanism, which is not a mechanism, but is an institution that is ruling on us. I think that we have to tame the markets and not to be tamed by the markets. I am not a communist in the sense of Soviet communist or Cuban communist or even Chinese communist, because there is no freedom in it. I think that we can shape a new form, a new philosophy that inspires to communism, but a democratic socialism and communism. The other theme I would like to launch in DiEM, of course, we have the Green New Deal, but we have to define a lot of things. We have to talk about a lot of issues. We have climate, of course, but we have also pollution. We have to talk about the reduction of pollution, and we have also to talk about 5G, for instance, a new technology that poses us a lot of risks and unknowns. So if I am elected, I would like to unite citizens and DMers all over Europe and maybe abroad, outside Europe, around these themes. Economy, elimination of the fiscal compact, environment, which includes the climate, of course, but not only that, also defense of the environment. I think I said everything for the first time.
Thank you. And last one, Eleonora.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for organizing this debate, and I also appreciate the speech of other candidates as well. Well, I'm in UK as well, and I'm in London. I'm studying at SOAS University for a master in history, politics of the Middle East and Arabic language. And I was, as Ari said, I was part of the Italian National Collective for 1 year and a half, and I was part also of the Italian electoral wing, outgoing one. And I also gained some organizational coordination skills with the Young European Federalists when with which I managed the section of Rome for 2 years, and I participated in different events during the year. And in the National Collective Italian Electoral Wing, I worked mainly with local DSC in collaboration with the CC. And I worked also in the agenda group at the beginning, trying to translate locally the N25 policies for Italy. Why I would like to be candidate? But first of all, there is a very personal reason. Because I'm a political activist since I was 14 years old, and to be a political activist is something that will be always in my life next to me. So I have this personal need. Secondly, of course, there are other political reasons. The first thing is that I believe we need a pan-European left that at the moment doesn't exist. And pan-European left, I mean a left that has a vision of Europe that is between social justice and federalism, not sovereignism. That's for me is a new pan-European left. And so at the moment, I believe nobody except the N25 has a vision of a new Europe that is post-capitalist, new policies, and federal Europe, so institutional revolution. So that's why I think the DM at the moment is the best tool to bring about a new society in Europe. And I would like to be part of it, of course, with my candidacy in the CC. And last but not least, of course, we have to understand whether the N25 is just a political movement or also a political party. And I think we will have time to discuss about it later. And in my case, I would like work mainly from thanks to the experience I have gained in the past years. At the moment, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. So our first topic here is the Green New Deal. And again, we welcome viewers to ask their own questions, so we can have a deeper discussion in more depth. Now, Eleonora, let's start discussing the Green New Deal with you. We will not give you a break. So in your video for the candidacy for the CC, you're in front of the Mediterranean Sea, where you talk about the refugee and the migration crisis. Now, in your video, you also talk about the importance of the Green New Deal, and combining these two crises, a new emerging crisis, a new crisis emerges, which is that of climate refugees. People who are forced to leave their homes for climate reasons. Do you think that currently the Green New Deal for Europe is sufficient to deal with these two crises? And what steps would you take as a member of the CC for this to become a reality moving forward?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, the first things I can say is that European Union think about the refugee and migrants crisis in general as an emergency and not about like something that has to be solved with a precise group of policies. And the thing is, when I used to work in Brussels in the European institution last year, I covered the European Council. That is the most undemocratic body migrants. Basically, they completely didn't consider the proposal from the European Parliament to change the Dublin to reform Dublin about migrants and about laws about migrants in Europe at the moment. So first of all, if we want to change something about migrants crisis connected with the other crisis we are living, because now we are in a time in which all crises are absolutely connected. So migrants crisis, economic crisis, environment crisis, and all of them has to be solved with a new group of policies. But before arrive to new group of policies, we need absolutely to change the European system, the decision-making European system. Because if we don't change it, we could have the best policies in the world, but the system will remain very undemocratic. So first of all, we need to change it. Secondly, with the bottom-up and the top-down process, we have to create, as the Green New Deal, this is what it is, the Green New Deal for me, is a group of policies that can concern different topics. Of course, when I think about migrants, I think about refugees, economic migrants, and also climate migrants. And there will be more and more. And because of that, we need long-term policies that are in the Green New Deal, about in which migrants, environment, work, and those kind of themes are before the profit and the business, how is at the moment. So I try to answer a bit, and DiEM is a good tools to bring about and to with advocacy work, with the mobilizations and with the local proposals as well to realize it. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Jacques, let me ask you, you've said that you have experience with humanitarian projects in Central Africa. And the ongoing climate catastrophe now affects the so-called global south and vulnerable countries a lot more than the so-called Western world. And I think we all agree here that saving the planet, this requires global actions and working both in Europe as well as in countries in South Asia, Central Africa, Central America. As a member of the CC, do you want the Green New Deal to go towards these directions? And if yes, what will you do for that?
Yes, thank you. First of all, we don't have to save the planet. The planet will do okay, but maybe without us. So, I mean, it's to save the humanity, which is critical. So, as you say, I witnessed firsthand the effect of the climate change in Chad and Central African Republic, where I was working, especially the impact on the farmers and the cattle owners, the cattle herders, pastoralists. Because and it was a cause of conflict and very violent conflict. In fact, last week there was a conflict between sedentary farmers and cattle herders, which made about 35 were killed in a conflict because of that. So there they experienced directly the effect of climate change. I was working with refugees in Chad and Central African Republic, and that's the reason why there is a direct link between climate change and refugees and migrants. Although most of the refugees don't come to Europe, the biggest part of them go to neighboring countries like Cameroon, or in the case of Central African Republic, they go to Chad. So I mean, I know quite well what the refugees need and why they come to Europe. However, that's the reason why we cannot have a Green New Deal only for Europe. We must develop a Green New Deal for Europe, but we must take into account the effects and the needs of other countries. You mentioned Asia, because if you look at India at the moment, there is a terrible drought in India, and it is also the same in many countries. So, I mean, we have to integrate within our program contacts with the people in the global south in order to have a global approach of Green New Deal. That's the reason why I added in my paper, candidacy paper, that I will develop contacts and networks with the local people, because I've been there, including in North Africa, to link the Green New Deal for Europe with other countries in the global south. And I also think that the Green New Deal, and we know that has to reduce inequalities in Europe, which is certainly one of our goals, but also globally to reduce inequalities in order to be successful. Because we cannot have a Green New Deal which will ask countries in the global south to make more efforts than we do.
Great.
Does it answer your question?
Yeah, perfectly. I really liked it personally, but I will refrain from making personal judgments. Silvia, you kind of touched in the beginning in your opening remarks, but you also state in your description that regarding environmental issues, I'm quoting now, we have to change the current narrative. The main problem is not the climate crisis as such, but much more the fact that we neglect all environmental risk just to favor the markets, unquote. Now, every day there are news like wildfires, rising temperatures, ice melting, all to keep reminding us that we have to act quickly. However, overthrowing capitalism, as you say, and the markets, that cannot be done realistically within the next 2-3 years. Now, within this context, as member of the CC, what will you do towards this direction, specifically to develop the Green New Deal even further and work against markets?
Thank you very much for this question. My idea is not to overthrow capitalism. I think it's impossible, not in 2 or 3 years, but maybe more. And the question is also, do we want to overthrow capitalism? We live in a capitalist world. Our money is on the banks. We all buy smartphones. So we do exactly what the multinationals want us to do. My point is not to overthrow capitalism, of course, but I think that we have to be the lobbyists of the citizens. That means that we have to go for the interest of 90% of humanity, maybe more, 95%. So we have to defend the interest of humanity. And we have to tame the markets. We cannot let markets rule upon us. We cannot let markets decide what we have to buy, what we have to do. We have the power, democratic power. So I think that DiEM25 should be in all parliaments, in municipalities, in the region, at the European parliaments, to defend the rights and the interest of citizens. So the question is a bit different. The narrative is a bit different. I think that nowadays we are every day we hear about, we are alarmed. They want us to panic because when we are panicking, then we do exactly what the markets want us to do. I think that we have to reshape the narrative about the environment, environmental issues, and about climate change, because there are a lot of things that we can do. For instance, we are doubling the air traffic, and we know that the plane pollutes 75% more than the train. So why are we dismantling train connections in Europe? If we want to go to Berlin, why do we have to take the plane and not to take the train? This is a decision that is taken by governments, that is taken at European level. So we have, as DM, if we are in the places where the decisions are taken, where the laws are made, then we can change the narrative. There are more things that we can do. We all buy smartphones. Now, we know the smartphone has a terrible ecological footprint. We want to change this. So why do we need to buy all the times more smartphones? We have to introduce the 5G technology. We know that this technology uses the double amount of electricity as the technologies there are now, because data centers uses a lot of electricity. So the question is, if we want to reduce energy use, if we want to reduce the use of electricity, why do we embark in technologies that are doubling the use of electricity? So the point is, changing the narrative, according to me, doesn't mean to fight against capitalism. Of course, it's impossible. And the question is also, do we want that? It means that we, as representatives of people, as representatives of the majority of the citizens all over the world, we have to defend health, environment, our rights, our environment. So we have to defend this. And we have to be in the place where you can defend it. Because now we are outside. We only in Greece we have DM in the parliament, but in other countries we are not even participating to elections. I think that this is important. If we want to be the lobbyist of the citizens, then we have to be there where the decision are taken. Sorry, I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, and we will come back to that. Let me ask Andrea. London has seen this summer an explosion of a new international movement demanding to face the climate emergency and the existential threat that climate emergency poses to human beings. Do you consider that the current DiEM25 Green New Deal for Europe is deep enough to address these issues? And second, a lot of people, including the candidates in these sessions and in previous sessions, have argued that we need DiEM25 to connect with other movements and grow. And why not join under a common political umbrella? What is your opinion on that? And what will you do as a member of the CC towards this direction?
Thank you. So I think it's a very good question, and certainly DiEM campaign for a Green New Deal has been very timely and important, and I would take a chance to praise the effort of all the comrades and members who participated. This said, I think the real question is not whether it goes deep enough, but that it is not what the EU will actually do. And in fact, what the EU can actually do, because I think Eleonora was very right to point out that the decision-making process needs to be deeply reformed. We need to keep in mind that the nomination of Ursula von der Leyen as the new president of the Commission is, first of all, a direct betrayal of the vote of the European citizens in May. It was the byproduct of an extreme attempt of the European establishment to maintain their position of power, not a political response that we need to see to the green surge that we saw during the election. And realistically, we have a few months before Ursula von der Leyen New Deal for Europe is set in stone, it's planned and is presented. And maybe a few more months to influence the European Parliament and then the national government. But we can be sure already now that the commitment of this political establishment will be nowhere near to face what is really an unprecedented global emergency. And I very much agree with Jacques that the planet is not in danger, and we are, but not just we. There is the life on Earth is in crisis. There are scientists discussing whether we have entered a period of mass extinction. And so the phase of what we are looking is really massive. And the real question now for us politically is how the citizens of Europe will react to the failure of the European political establishment to put in place the adequate amount of resources and the adequate amount of urgency to tackle the climate emergency. And what we are seeing in a way with the Friday for Future and the global response to Greta Thunberg battle and Extinction Rebellion and many other movements throughout Europe, and they're very strong in the UK, absolutely, is that in a way it's a tipping point of a revolution in mindset that can be compared to what happened in the 60s to our parents. In many ways, what we are seeing now is the 68 of the Generation Z, the native digital born at the end of the millennium. And my prediction is that we are seeing some sort of a deep transformation of how humankind see its role on the planet. And given the failure of global institutions to tackle the problems of our time, I think it's inevitable that we're going to see a clash between the citizens and these global institutions. And as we need to keep in mind that these global institutions are entrenched on neoliberalism, solving the climate crisis at the end of the day requires us, all of us, to face the crisis of these global institutions and to fight against financial capitalism. And in this, I disagree with Silvia. We cannot solve the climate crisis unless we also challenge the financial capitalism forged by the neoliberal ideology. So these two battles are, to me, completely the same battle. And the question is how to make a single battle with all these movements that are active in our societies. And so I think that most and foremost, we need to be on the strikes, on the squares, starting from the global climate strike on September the 20th. We will be in the UK, and we should organize the pan-European level to be present when actions are organized by these other movements. And we should start to discuss with them how to do initiative at the pan-European level together. For instance, we can think of European Citizens Initiative or European strikes or other forms of activities, but we need to sit down at a table with the Extinction Rebellion, with Friday for Future, and start discussing what to do together. There is the Conference of the Parties next year, probably in Glasgow, so we need to be there and be aware of the scale of the challenge and stand with the citizens against this establishment.
Great, thanks. Now, let me turn to Eleonora. Eleonora, you talked about dealing with all these crises holistically. It's not different crises, it's one emerging big crisis. Within this context, feminism has to play a big role. And what would be the role of women in this? And what can women do in the context of the Green New Deal?
Okay, first of all, just to underline my view of this crisis, if we compare this global crisis with, for example, the crisis of 1929, it's completely different, because now we are in a crisis in which a system completely clashed from different point of view. So as I said before, there is a climate crisis, migrants crisis, a security crisis, and also a psychological crisis, because an old world that we used to live is going to die, and we have to choose which kind of society we want to create. Then, about the role of women, first of all, I think, as also Agnieszka Bach said during a protest with Razem in 2016, is that feminism is something that we have to live every day. It's a daily practice. And for example, with the Green New Deal, I would think the Green New Deal also not like with okay, then there is the chapter of feminism, and then there are other things, but we have to think about feminism as a widespread and a whole and general practice. which doesn't mean just to think about we have to be political correct, then we apply the gender balance, but introduce good practice in order to understand politically the idea of women, not women because they are women. So, however, nowadays we have important leaders, women leaders that are global leaders, such as Greta Thunberg, or I think also Ocasio-Cortez. And from this point of view, from my point of view, I would be glad that new women will bring about, will be the leaders of this new society, because it will be an important signal of change in a society that is completely masculine. Because sometimes we have to be fair. We say we are politically correct with women, but politically and in informal way we continue to be very masculine. So I would propose to extend new practice in not just one chapter about feminism in the Green New Deal policies as well, and to understand how we can think about feminism. Not only women think about feminism, but also men, inside with new practices, new daily practices.
Yeah, that's a great response. Now, let me turn to Andrea. We have the Green New Deal, and we've been debating about whether the Green New Deal is good, deep, comprehensive, or whether it takes, and to what extent, amendments. Now, the Green New Deal is currently European, pan-European, but the UK is set to leave the EU. What would the role of the UK be as far as the Green New Deal concerns, if it exits, if a Brexit happens?
So it's a very good question. I think it requires two levels. So from a political level, we need to understand that Brexit, the current form of Brexit that are proposed by the Conservative Party, is an incredible obstacle to not just the Green New Deal, but any sort of coordination of policies from a progressive standpoint. A no-deal Brexit is essentially the attempt to produce a massive deregulation of the British economy, weakening standards, rights, environmental and social rights, and trying to bring the UK towards becoming a sort of a tax haven, Singapore style, where work is devalued, the environment is not very important, and the connection with the US economy is what matters to drive the financial flow to this country. So politically, fighting for a Green New Deal means fighting against a no-deal Brexit. Then, of course, Brexit can happen in many forms. And in all circumstances, we can think of working with a progressive government in the UK to implement those policies that we want to implement at the European level, mirroring the level of investments, the standards in terms of environmental rights, and the organization of the implementation of these policies. And this is absolutely doable. So in the same way in which the European Investment Bank wants to invest in the convention of the economy, the same can be done by a British investment bank that coordinates its policy on a regular basis with the European institutions. At that point, one would wonder why would duplicate the efforts, and that's a nonsense of Brexit from my point of view. But we need to understand that it's possible, and even post-Brexit, it's possible to coordinate progressive policy. But first, we need to stop the no deal.
Okay, great, thank you. Let me turn to Silvia and ask you, Silvia. Rosita asks that some candidates have talked about lobbying of DiEM25, and the banks and large multinationals are very good at lobbying. Do you think that DiEM25 can or should organize itself to be a good lobbyist? And what's your opinion on lobbying?
Thank you, Haris. Yes, I think that we should do something in this field. How can you lobby in an effective way? Of course, you need to know, you need to study a matter and to study it in depth as real lobbyists do. I think that we can do it with a special group and also with dedicating ourselves to special issues. I mean, if we have some economy group that deals about the elimination of the fiscal compact, then we have a work group working on fiscal compact. And then we know what to do, then we follow all the discussions, then we participate at meetings in Brussels, we read documents, and we work together in order to act at the right moment. I mean, decisions are taken in Brussels, in the commissions, or in the lobbies, and we have to be there. I know it's difficult, I know it takes time, but I think that we have to do this in the end. On the other side, we need to be elected in parliaments, at the councils of municipalities, regions, and everywhere, because these are the places where the political decisions are taken. These are the places where we make law. I don't think it's enough to be a movement. There are nowadays.
Okay, let me. Before
yes.
we go to
yes.
electoral wings and the role of the M25 in elections, we will discuss that in detail.
Okay.
So let's focus on the Green New Deal, and I think you answered the question very clearly regarding lobbying. We will continue the discussion after the Green New Deal. Now, let me turn to Jacques. Jacques, if you want to comment on anything that has been said, please feel free to do. Now, the question I have is, do you think that, I mean, historically, change in societies has been bottom-up, and people go out on the streets. Do you think that people are tired of going out on the streets for so many multiple issues now? And if yes, do you think that the M25 needs to engage on this front?
Well, you should ask people from Hong Kong or Sudan or Algeria if they are tired to go to the streets. I don't think so. So it's possible, and people from Extinction Rebellion are taking to the streets too. So the problem is not to be tired or not, but to have a structured approach of not only demonstration, but maybe civil disobedience and more, and to coordinate demonstrations with political actions of other, kind of political actions. So I think, yes, we should get into the political system in order to campaign and to give political output of campaigns, but we should give a voice to the civil society in Europe and in the rest of the world. What I say is, for lobbying, because there is a question about lobbying, we should learn from NGOs, because there are a lot of NGOs which are very good at lobbying. But it should be a people's lobbying. I mean, bringing together civil society organizations and the public opinion in order to campaign and to lobby the politicians, because that's the strongest the strongest factor to bring about change. About the Green New Deal, I have a few things to say. I'm the contact person for the Green New Deal in the French National Collective, and I think that we should, really focus on the social dimension of the Green New Deal, because at the moment, everybody is talking about a Green New Deal. The Greens, the European Greens. Even a few days ago, there was 200 big bosses from big firms in the social responsibility who called for a New Deal for Europe. So, you know, everybody is talking about that, but the question is, what distinguishes ourselves from these initiatives? And that should be two things. First, the social dimension, meaning the Green New Deal shouldn't hurt the workers and the people with low income. And the second thing is it should, as I said earlier, include the global south. So I think we should really emphasize these dimensions in order for the people not to be afraid of the Green New Deal. Because, you know, in France we have the yellow vests, the gilets jaunes. And it was at the beginning, it was because there was a carbon tax on the fuel that hurt a lot of low-income households. So I think that we should really, you know, develop this idea of social justice within the Green New Deal.
Great, thank you. And Andrea, the final question to you regarding the Green New Deal. If you could, in less than a minute or so, list actions that the CC you would take as member of the CC, or you think that the CC should take moving forward?
I think we should consult with all the stakeholders that are campaigning for Green New Deal and fighting for against the climate emergency, a set of common actions for the next 5 years. I would strongly consider the opportunity to start a European citizen initiative, and I would plan certainly a strong presence of DiEM25 at the next Conference of Parties Europe, to be part of the protest and to be there when the action is on the ground.
Great, thanks. Any last comments from anyone regarding the Green New Deal before we move forward?
Yes, just we are already through Brice Montagne and other people, we are already in contact with people from the future, you know, Global Future and the Extinction Rebellion. So I think we have to work to connect with these movements more than today, but we will work on that.
Great.
Can I say something?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, about the Green New Deal. Unfortunately, I was not a member of DiEM, or I was a member, but I could not participate to the writing or comments of the first Green New Deal. I think it's very important to put some concrete things in it. Just an example, in the Netherlands, they decided that we have to throw away our gas heating installation, and that we have to go on electricity, so that we have to heat our houses with electricity. But it's not clear at all how this electricity has to be produced. I mean, if we are changing gas, natural gas, with electricity imported from France, coming from the nuclear industry, I don't think that we are taking the good solution. And besides that, the fact that we have to throw away our gas heating installation, it costs a lot of money to people. I think that we have to be very keen. We have to reduce emissions, because CO2 is causing problems to the climate. So we have to reduce CO2. How do we do that? Reducing emissions. We have to talk concretely about what kind of reduction of emissions we have to put in act. This is the important question. Otherwise, capitalists will say, you have to pay for climate, and they take the gains. I think it's very important to be very concrete in the Green New Deal. Otherwise, the people won't follow us. And yeah, there are a lot of initiatives, of course.
Okay, so
we have to give an added value to this issue, I think. Thank you.
So I guess that you believe that currently the Green New Deal is not concrete enough, right?
Yes, I think it's not concrete. I think that we have to look to a lot of different issues.
Okay.
I mean, I've been studying environmental issues a long time now.
Okay, okay, let's
say stop this or stop that, but the discourse is much broader. So please, let's start doing this.
Let's leave this Green New Deal, and let's finish with the Green New Deal, and let's move forward to the next topic, which is the internal things of DiEM25, the inner workings of DiEM25, and how DiEM25 works. Let me, Andrea, I will have to mute you because I think noise is coming from your side. Let me start with Zach. Zach, regarding the DiEM25, you say that one of your goals as a member of the CC is to improve internal communications. I would think that saying that means that currently internal communications are not perfect. How would you rate internal communications from 1 to 10? And given the fact that there is an internal communications coordinator of DiEM25, what will you do to specifically improve internal communications in our movement?
Well, first of all, I want to remind you that in 2017, in our Berlin meeting, there was at the moment announced the creation of a great party without anyone within DiEM25 being asked about that. So I took the initiative to write an open letter to the CC, which was signed by many DSCs at the moment, and to ask for a big debate on this issue, which was answered by the CCs. The vote was delayed by at least 2 or 3 months, and the debate took place. So that's the reason why I'm very much aware of the shortcomings of internal communication. That has improved a lot since then, but what I think is it has still to be improved, and especially the transparency and the democracy in the decision-making process, which is not very clear. For example, recently it was said that we should abandon the idea of alliances and focus on creating national parties, like in Greece. However, this was not decided by everybody, and there was no debate about that so far. So I think we will have to have a debate about that. So that's the reason. It's not only communication; it's the democratic process within DiEM25, which should be improved a lot. Also, I think that at the beginning there was a willingness about transversal inter-DSCs cooperation and discussion. There is some, but there is not enough. So I think that very often people are frustrated about that. So that's the reason. I don't like to put rates from 1 to 10 or whatever. So don't. But I really think that we have to work on this. I think probably GM25 is one of the most democratic movements at the moment, but it's not totally democratic, and there are some glitches, there are some problems along the line, and it should be improved. But it's the spirit of the GM25 is there.
Okay, following up on that, there have been voices saying that DSCs and activists within DiEM25 should better work at the local level and not try to push for things pan-European. Do you see that DSCs should have a much more local role rather than trying to push initiatives Europe or worldwide?
Are you asking me?
Yes, just following up on what you said.
Okay, so I think it's both, because you cannot have pan-European without being having grassroots approach and activism. We are, after all, in favor of municipalism, which is at local level, and the effects of pan-European policies are felt at local level, and we should involve citizens at local level, but at the same time link the local level with the European one, because the fact is, until now, people at the local level haven't been involved in the European decision-making, European policies, and that's a big problem, because people resent that. They think that European level is disconnected from the local level. So it is important for us to link both.
Okay, thanks. Eleonora, Jacques touched on this, and you also mentioned about this in your video. Now, in May, we had 2 elections, with DiEM25 running in several countries, with its own electoral wings or in coalition with other parties. Now, the first election, the EU elections, DiEM25 and the European Spring did not succeed in electing a member of parliament. But in the second election, the Greek elections, Mero25 was able to elect 9 people. Now, as Jacques said, it has been argued that DiEM25, that the role of that the structure of how the structure of how Mero25 worked in Greece, that should be copied and pasted to other countries and states, and that Jacques said that this was not discussed, and you also say in your description that this is a topic that should be further discussed before the decision can be made. What do you think on this topic, and what exactly will you do as member of the CC to bring changes towards this direction and electoral wings within the movement?
Yeah, thank you for your question. First of all, I would say that for me, it would be like the most beautiful dream in my life if I can vote for the DiEM25 party in each country of Europe. So I think it would be an amazing thing. But I think there are some things we have to take into account, and a specific way in which we have to proceed with strategies and different political consideration. The first things, I believe, we should understand each national framework. For example, in UK there is a strong left party that now it seems that with Brexit they are clearer than before, and they have a left tradition completely different from, for example, left parties in Portugal or in Spain or in Italy as well. In Italy, for example, there is another situation as well, because in Italy we don't have a very left party, because I don't consider the Democratic Party a left party. And the other thing is, at the moment in Italy, if you start with a new political party, it's hard at the moment to start with from different reasons, electoral law, and for a lot of disappointments there is around. So first of all, I would study in depth the Statu Mera, how they works, and try to understand which practice we can bring in some countries and which practice is impossible to bring because of political background. The Greece political background, fortunately, create the roots to a new political party as Mera 25 that enter in the Greek parliament. So the thing is, for me, it would be the best solution to create a DiEM25 political party in which country. But first of all, I think we have to understand which left political party are in different countries. What is the political background of these political parties, their history, and so on. And also, I would say, maybe in some countries, DiEM25 would be just a political movement rather than also a political party. So, for example, in Greece, or I don't know, in Italy, we will create a political party of DiEM25 thanks to the electoral wings. In other part of Europe, maybe we will just improve movement activities such as campaigns or advocacy. So I think for each country there is a different consideration based on all the features I above mentioned. Thank you.
Thanks. Sylvia, let me come to you. Let me ask you. You say that you, quote, tried to start a European thematic DSC focused on environmental issues, but this was not accepted by the person in charge, unquote. Now, I don't want to go deep into the past and to find reasons on why this happened or what should have happened, but I want to focus on the role of thematic DSCs. Do you think that thematic DSCs are currently working at a fair pace? Do you think that we need more thematic DSCs? And what do you think the role of thematic DSCs should be in DiEM25? And all this to ask, what will you do as a CISIC member to empower thematic DSCs?
I think that thematic DSCs in DiEM at a pan-European level could be very important, and we should encourage them. I would be very much interested in an economy group, let's say fiscal compact and privatization and European stability mechanism, and another one on environmental issues included climate change and everything. I think it should really be very important. This does not mean that local DSCs don't have a role, absolutely not. I think that all organized groups and volunteer groups are very important for DiEM25. Nothing excludes nothing, but the focus on issues, let's say environment or economy, how changing the rules in Europe, I think that it should be really vital and strategically very urgent for us. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the economy, and that's interesting because we joined DiEM, most of us, or many people joined DiEM25 following Yannis Varoufakis. Now, there are things that he suggests as an economist that can, should, or cannot, or should not be adopted by the movement. What's your take on this?
I think that economic is the basis. Unfortunately, I would like that culture or other things could be more important, but it's not. Europe, it's about economy. And it's about the power of banks, of financial institutions. We live now in a, I wouldn't say dictatorship, but it's an oligarchy of financial institutions. is so vital, so important that DiEM25 studies the matter. And of course, Yanis has written books. I read almost all his books. I think that this is a new philosophy on economy and how we see the financial system. I take only these three issues: the fiscal compact, the European stability mechanism, and the privatization. At the moment, we privatize everything, and that's wrong. I think we
let's
nationalize.
let's not focus on the economy so far, but on the top-down versus bottom-up approach within DiEM25, because DiEM25 has been described as a Varoufakis fan club or as a movement or as many other things.
No, I think that also in this way we should participate, let DMers as much as possible participate to the debate at any level. Of course, you have to study. I mean, you have to study the book of Yanis, The Global Minotaur, to have an idea of his ideas. It's a book. There are a lot of things in it. So I think that if we study, then we can participate to a debate at a higher level. If we are talking about the fiscal compact, we have to study it deeply. We cannot improvise and we cannot simply use slogans. And then you can participate at any level. You should actually, but I would like to.
Okay, thank you. Now, Andrea, you have been coordinating the campaign Take a Break from Brexit, which is also supported by the UK NC of DiEM25. Now, this campaign and this whole process of Brexit, this has created a long back and forth between the UK NC and the European the CC of DiEM25. I'm sure you know this much better than I do. Now, and this has also resulted in significant changes of positions in relatively few months. So in our DSC, we always ask ourselves, okay, what DiEM25 supports now regarding Brexit? Now, there's a lot of back and forth. I don't know, it is also going on right now between the CC and the Italian MC. What do you think should be an ideal interaction and ideal channels of interactions between the two levels, the national or regional campaigns and the international CC coordinating levels?
Yeah, so I would answer this way. Fundamentally, I believe in bottom-up politics, not just because it is more democratic to let the members say what should happen in a political movement, but it's also because most often the people that know best what needs to happen in a certain territory, in a certain country, are the people in that territory and in that country. And I think Eleonora described very well how we need to know the specifics of the political situation of a country to know what's the best course of action. And so in this sense, I think that the CC should be a group of people that enable the members of a country to decide what's the best course of action without imposing their view or imposing what needs to be done. Now, what happened in the UK, I will very shortly describe because not everyone necessarily know. In the UK, we ran a campaign called Take a Break from Brexit, which was a campaign which was asking to postpone the Brexit deadline by at least 1 year and democratize the Brexit process through citizen assemblies. And from the perspective of DiEM in the UK, it was a political response to the choice of Theresa May and the Conservative Party to refuse any compromise on Brexit, rule out a soft Brexit on the line on the no-way pass that we in DiEM and many other progressives were advocating for, and impose instead a botched deal that satisfied no one, and the no deal being the only alternative. And as we said at the time, a choice between something bad and something worse is not a choice, and we need therefore more time and a better democratic process to understand what to make of Brexit. Now, this was the wisdom that we gathered by following the political developments in the UK, because we saw that there was no prospect of a soft Brexit. Now, we had a disagreement, and I want to say that this campaign was approved by an all members vote last November, so it was all members of DM throughout the continent. Now, Yanis changed his mind a few times on Brexit, which is fair enough. I mean, everyone did in the UK. I don't want to blame him. But what I mean more generally is that no one can know the political situation in all European countries. And so I think the CC should fundamentally respect the decisions of the members in that country. And then it depends on the campaign. So if the campaign is a national campaign, the CC can support it with its tools and resources. If it's a national campaign which has an influence on broader European politics, like it was the case, I think, I would argue, of Take a Break from Brexit, perhaps the role of the CC is to make sure that there is some coordination between the activity in the UK, the activity in the rest of the continent, making sure that all members support each other in this effort. I just want to make a final point about this, that Take a Break from Brexit was not a campaign that I came up with on a certain day. It was the product of a discussion among a lot of members in the UK. And we traveled across the country. I went to events in Glasgow, in Oxford, in Newcastle, in Stoke-on-Trent, in London, and we received feedback from the activists. So I think this is an important process. We need to listen to the wisdom of the people on the ground that are fighting the battles. They know what needs to happen. And I may take 30 extra seconds because there was a question about Corbyn on Brexit. I think it's kind of relevant in this response. So you tell me, Aris.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the reasons why we put forward this campaign to take a break from Brexit was also because we saw that the Labour Party, and Corbyn in particular, was struggling to articulate a response in a Brexit debate, which was very complicated from a progressive standpoint. Now, I really respect Corbyn's effort to keep the country together in a country which was very much divided on the line of leavers and remainers, and not on the lines of progressive and right-wing people. So I think in a way I am very sympathetic to his effort to unify the country and to bring together leavers and remainers. And very the core of Take a Break from Brexit was this: you may have voted Remain, you may have voted Leave, you may have not voted, like myself. I didn't have the right to vote. We can still be together and democratize the Brexit process. This said, I don't think it's fair to describe Corbyn as not clear on Brexit anymore, because the Brexit policy of the Labour Party now is very clear. The Labour Party is advocating a second referendum with an option to remain. Perhaps they arrived a bit late to this clarity, but it's now very clear. What I think we need to, and Corbyn needs and can improve, is on the broad narrative. So I think I would like him to articulate why he thinks that overall remaining in the EU is better for his country. And he's never clear on that in putting forward his values as an internationalist. I know it's difficult, but I think DM can help with this process, because we certainly have a pan-European narrative that can very well fit with the Labour Party. And I think we are making step forward. The invitation that Yanis received to attend the International Social Forum in July with John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn was this attempt to start building a pan-European narrative that can help the Labour Party find a solution to the Brexit problem. And I'm sorry if I took way longer.
Okay. No, we're good. The Corbyn question was asked by, I think, Rosita on the chat. So we should have answered that. Now, Eleonora, let me come to you and ask, what's the role of ex officio members should be in the movement? And do you think that they should be elected from the base or appointed by the CC?
Well, to be honest, I have never thought about it. I think the role of the ex officio, as I can see, is a technical role, and in which they are paid. So it is not completely a political role, because if you're paid and you do politics, it's not very democratic. It's not very nice in comparison with people that run for election are just volunteers, of course. So they have a technical role, and if I think about how they can be chosen. I can mention the Young European Federalists. They have a secretary, a European secretary that is paid, and they every 2 years they change all the secretary with a application. So and the European board decides about application. I think it should be quite sensible that the CC would decide about ex officio member. It is not clear, of course, how they are paid, how much they are paid, if other people can apply, and because there are, while in the GEF there was, every 2 years or 3, I don't remember, there was a kind of refresh, and so the role changed, and it was chosen by the European board. In the end, it's not clear exactly how they are chosen and how long is their mandate. So, as I can see, their mandate is infinite. There are no stop at the moment. Of course, except for candidates that they were ex officio and now they are running for CC election. So, yeah, those are my proposals.
Okay, thanks. Zach, do you want to comment on the ex officios, or do you want to?
Well, I'm not sure that everybody should be elected, because it will make election all the time for people we will not know a lot about. But I think that there should be more clarity and more transparency about the role of ex officio, and to have less confusion between the political role and ex officio role. So, also I agree with Eleonora that there should be a fixed term for ex officio, even if they can renew, but it's not, they are not ex officio forever. That's true. So again, more clarity and more transparency on why one was chosen among others.
Okay, thank you. Silvia, this exact debate was initiated from members of DiEM25, and members tried to reach all candidates. We have managed to reach 34 candidates. We have managed to reach about and include 15 candidates out of 34. Do you think that similar debates should become mandatory? Debates, I shouldn't use that word. Isegoria sessions should become more open and mandatory to future elections within the movement. And as the question of initiatives as a whole, do you think that what initiatives do you think should be promoted or not promoted by the CC?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I understand correctly your first question. You're asking about the election of ex officio, or?
No, I'm asking about the role of discussions and debate in general. There have been many discussions on the forum on whether such debates and Isegoria sessions should happen in more elections or become the norm within the movement.
I think it's very important and very vital that you organize this kind of Isegoria debates, and we really have to discuss and to talk to each other and to see who we are and what we want. I think this is really very important, and a maximum of transparency on everything. Of course, this goes also for all kind of elections. If it should be mandatory, I think that when you are, of course, when you present yourself as a candidate for a coordinating group, of course, you must be prepared to take part. But I think that you would like to participate in any case. The other question, sorry, the second was also very important.
Yeah, like in general, when we talk about movement initiatives.
The initiatives. I think that this is really very important. The content of the initiatives. I mean, if DM should say, we will start an initiative on this theme, let's take climate change. What do we want to do about climate change, about climate emergency? We have the forum. I've been discussing and writing in a forum. It's really very interesting. It's an addiction. If you take part to a forum, such a forum, 6,000 people can participate. So it's a big forum in potentially. So I think that this is really exciting and important, and initiatives should start from the forum, from the agora, from the discussion. What is important for us? What do we want to do on climate emergency? We want to demonstrate on streets, okay, but we already do, because all of us who think that climate is important are demonstrating and trying to organize something, but we want to do more. What is the added value of DM25 on the climate emergency? We can find out through the forum, through the discussion. We can present initiatives, we can present proposals, and of course the CC has to take account of that and discuss that. In this way, we can create a synergy. We are 6,000. I'm sure that among the 6,000 people, there are some that have very brilliant ideas around this theme. So let's do this. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. Would you agree to start with what Silvia just said, or do you want to add something more?
No, yes, I agree. In general, I agree with most that has been said in this debate so far. And I think I haven't said it yet. So let me say, I really want to thank the organizers of this debate. It's been an excellent effort, a collective effort of Aris, Vincenzo, the New York DSC. I think, to be honest, that the next CC should make sure that in the next election, something like that is coordinated also by the CC, because I think democracy, it's about debating. It's not just about browsing a video on the forum if you have 2 or 3 spare minutes. It's about listening to candidates debating and having also different views on things. This said, sorry, I a bit lost myself. There are specific questions.
Yeah, no. Let me ask you something more specific. You said that the CC should promote such debates, but I will be a bit aggressive here and say that the current CC, actually, none of the members of the current CC participated in such debates, in these Isegoria sessions. What will you do if you get elected to make sure that such members' initiatives are not pushed aside?
Well, I would argue politically that it's important to empower members with their initiatives, and most often these initiatives makes a lot of sense. In general, I think that democracy requires informed debate. So any all members vote should be accompanied by a debate, ideally. And to me, the role of the CC is to make all members more capable of coming up with the right decision. So organizing a debate on any relevant vote. I think it's a point that I made earlier as well. A bottom-up movement, it's a movement in which members are in the position to decide the way forward and to understand what's the best way forward. So debates are an important ingredient of that. Now, I think we're gonna have a discussion in the next CC if there are different views on that. To be honest, I wouldn't be too surprised if the general consensus will be different in the next CC around this issue. Probably the present CC didn't see this initiative as relevant also. I don't want to enter into that. I don't know the details. I don't know why. I think it was a mistake though, and I hope we can correct it for next time.
Okay, and Eleonora, after hearing all this discussion, do you want to add something?
Well, yes, I would like to say that the DiEM25, I think, is a democracy experiment, very interesting. And there are, of course, a lot of dangerous situations that sometimes we face up. Like, for example, be compared with the five-star movement in some ways. Well, I think the more we debate, the more we will avoid some, paradox of democracy. I think the current CC, they have an interesting, of course, the idea of DiEM25, but I think that at the same time that DiEM25 has to go on as a political movement, a political party that internally should be more democratized. Because if we want to democratize Europe, we should be able to renew our internal bodies and our soul as well, without losing the goal, why the reason why DiEM25 was born, of course.
Okay, and Jacques.
Well, I think that DiEM25 is the development of DiEM25 is a collective learning process. I mean that we are learning by doing democracy. So I think that you couldn't find a lot of organizations like the DiEM25, which are already at a high level of democracy, which take a strategic decision based on all member votes. So I think that's a big step forward. Nevertheless, it should be improved, and we know that some decisions have been made without consulting everybody. So I think we have to learn about that. You know, this debate, or Isegoria, as you say, if I joined it, it's because I approve of it. So I think it's a good model for the future of DiEM25. I think it should be included in the organizing principles, this kind of debate, and not only about elections, but also about major decisions, major strategic political decisions, because it's an important issue if we want to keep the members mobilized, because you know quite a lot of members have quit in the past DiEM25, and it was, many of them were very valuable people, and sometimes it was because of the lack of democracy in the decision-making process. So we are already probably much more democratic than other organizations, but we have to improve it and to develop it.
That's a great point. And let me ask Eleonora, what will you do as member of the CC to motivate people, to engage members, and to activate and start even more DSCs? DiEM has been growing, and there was a post, I think today or yesterday, by Judith Meyer on the forum, showing numbers that DiEM25 grows, membership grows. But on the other hand, we see that probably there is a lack of engagement. So yeah, that's my understanding. So what will you do to activate all those members that have joined and make them participate in all the internal processes?
Well, you mean in the internal processes or in DiEM25 in general?
DiEM25 as general, like.
Okay, so as I experienced with local DSC in Italy, I think the first thing when people are interested to join a political movement is because they want to commit as a political activist in some particular issue, in some particular themes and actions. So the first thing is very useful, for example, is to not only from DM, but also to join other initiative of other association about different action. That can be a collection of signature, can be a big mobilization, for example, for the Fridays for Future, what we did in Italy, and or it can be the to build a campaign about a specific topic, in particular about a specific territory. What I mean, when I said in my video I want to rethink locally the Green New Deal, I mean, for example, that in Puglia, in the Ilva industry in Taranto, that is a very harmful industry for the environment, the government putting against the health with the thousands and thousands of job places. So DM25 should, with other organization in Taranto, for example, to propose based on the Green New Deal, a new ecological transition of this industry, because it's very harmful. So another thing, people have a lot of skills and competence. And for example, when I receive calls and messages from people interested in DM, and they say, for example, I am an engineer, I am a professor at university, I want to put my knowledge and to help the movement to grow, thanks also to my knowledge. And I would say it's not easy to try to understand what is the best way to put in practice those knowledge, because sometimes people inside, when they are in DSC, they participate to meeting and they say, okay, now we have to give this leaflets, we collect signatures and so on. It is not only like that, because people can be quite frustrating about it, and they want to really commit with their skills. So we have to find the way in which these people can organize debate, can create policies making. So, for example, thematic DSC could be a very useful source to go on with our Green New Deal, because now we're speaking, but the reality is going on, and we have to update every day our Green New Deal, also with new people that want to join it. For example, the DSC migration in Rome, they create an important document of 40 pages to contribute to the European Spring policies, and it was a very good things also from a continuistic point of view. There are other things, but I don't have too much time. Maybe we can discuss later.
Yeah, thank you. And last question to Andrea. There have been a lot of internal criticism whether DM25 and the European Spring acts as a celebrity or as a movement, as a celebrity, from a celebrity perspective, as a movement. What do you think did go well and or went wrong, and how do you think we should move forward with that?
Well, not many things went well, I would argue, in the European elections. I think the results in Greece were encouraging, but in the rest of Europe, if we didn't have an alliance with an established party or politician like in France, Poland or Denmark, in the rest of the country we were not very well organized and the results were quite poor, despite this involvement of celebrities that we had with Pamela Anderson and others. Now, I think this reflects a problem with our strategy in many ways. That is quite serious. I think in many countries, I know for sure in Italy, the strategy was not very clear and we didn't even manage to present a list. I think that once again, the solution doesn't come from celebrities joining top down, but it's the wisdom of the members bottom up. And I think we are in a difficult position now because obviously everyone every member of our movement know that we didn't do well in the election, and also people outside the movement saw us with these results. So I think we need to have a moment of reflection among ourselves, trying to understand where things went wrong. And I think a starting point for me is a members consultation, in which we ask members very simple questions that from their perspective about what we did right and what we can improve. I think there were 25 questions which were asked to all candidates to this CC election. We should start 25 questions to each and every one of our members too, and reason around the responses of the, that they give us. And certainly through this feedback, we should go towards a process of reorganization of the movement. And I think we should change some of our operating principles, and we should do that democratically with a process that could take about a year, I reckon. We need to really reorganize the movement along a new basis. One suggestion that I have made during this campaign is that we should still maintain a focus on campaigns, pan-European campaigns, which is our trademark. We are the only pan-European movement that can put forward a pan-European campaign. Maybe we can do that democratically too, devoting a part of our budget, choosing among a set of campaigns that are put forward by members, how to allocate the budget and those resources, and choosing a campaign on which we want to invest for the near future. The Green New Deal was a good example. We can think of others, but I would let the members propose their campaigns, putting forward a blurb, and have an all members vote about which campaigns we want to run in the near future.
Thank you. And let me note, I don't know if this should be a joke or not, that 25 questions were considered by many people, by some or many people, that were a lot to ask CC candidates. So yeah. Now,
well, if I can very briefly, there are ways to do a consultation in which you have close answers. You should gather a sentiment. They don't need to. We don't need to ask all members to write 25 responses, but we can express 25 opinions.
No, I think 25 is a very low number, and I think that people who run for the CC and it says that they should devote at least 4 hours per day, answering to 25 questions to me is not such a big problem, and I don't see why some people would complain about that. Now, if we can have some closing remarks from each one of you.
Can I say something about that? If you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing. I think we have to analyze our campaign, our European elections campaign, and what has been done and what worked or not. But I must remind that as soon as 2017, as used to say, we are DiEM25, not DiEM19. So that means that we agreed to participate in the European elections, but we were aware all along that we would probably not do very well in the European elections because we were a very new party and alliance. And those who thought we would do a lot, we got good results in the European elections, were delusional. The question was, we wanted to have our voices heard and to promote our ideas in the framework of the European elections. But the idea was not at the beginning to have a lot of MEPs. So I think we have to analyze, but not to think that it was a failure about that.
Okay, thanks. So, yeah, let's close with closing statements from you. Silvia, do you want to start?
Yes, just to close. Now, in any case, thank you for organizing this. I hope there will be more Isegorias about any item. And I really hope that thematic DSCs, pan-European, will start. I would call them working group and actually also lobby groups. I think that we have this beautiful instrument, which is the forum. We can use it. We can communicate through the forum. And really, it's important to stay bottom up and to be transparent and to discuss with each other. And I hope to be elected. But if I'm not elected, I would start in any. I would try to start in any case a DSC on around environment and climate. So hope to see you there then. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope all of you get elected. Andrea. You're muted, so.
Your microphone.
Yeah. Thank you again for organizing this. Thanks to all the members that listened to it and participate to the campaigns with questions and intervention on the forum. I hope I can be elected in the CC to support the work of the MUK on citizens' assemblies on Brexit, both to resolve the Brexit crisis and also to set an example for the entire EU on how to use citizen assemblies to solve these problems. I wish I can do something from the CC standpoint to help the work that Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party and progressives in the UK in general can do in transforming the EU with us and challenging international global order. And I want to commit my energy and skills to relaunch the first continental democratic political movement in the history of the world. And I want to always take a moment to reflect about what we are doing. It's a movement which is new in its kind. We'll make mistakes, but we need to be proud of what we are doing. And I think we need to restart with empowering our members, making our movements democratic to the core, and transforming towards a more functional, credible, and transparent organization. I think that we have the energy and the skills to do it, so let's do it together and carpe diem.
Great, thanks. Jacques.
Yes, I wanted to answer a question asked by Rosita, which is, what did you find beautiful in DiEM25? And the answer is the people. The people of DiEM25. I was amazed from the beginning. People I met either in workshops or DSCs or meetings elsewhere. I was amazed at the quality and the dedication of the DiEM25 people. So I think that's the best thing, including people like Rosita. and then I would like to emphasize one thing. It's that we have to overhaul the DiEM25 institutions. For example, and there is a question by Emma about the validation council. I think that we have to rethink the institution within DiEM25, probably to give more power, but we have to discuss it, to consult better with the grassroots groups like DSCs, and to improve the efficiency and the utility of the validating council. So I think that we have to put on the table a lot of things in order to discuss before the next assembly, which will take place in October, I think. So we can launch a wide debate in the movement about its functioning and its institutions, and I will fight for that too. Okay.
Thank you. And Eleonora, last words.
Yeah, first of all, I will answer the question in the forum as soon as possible. Just the last week was, I think, the craziest week of my life in terms of personal problems, like finding a place to live different from where I am now. But I will answer to the question, of course. And the thing is, I don't know how DiEM25 will be from now to the Praga Congress. I think that DiEM25 is a political movement, and it wants to be also a political party, but DiEM is trying to find a new way to do politics, and it is not easy. And whatever the thing will be, I will commit my passion in. Of course, this year I would like to help Andrea with Citizens Assembly and about all of marvelous things he is leading as well. And I will try to follow also Italy as well, and the work I have done this the previous month and last year in DN25. I hope DN will grow, and also from a democratic point of view, in order to become something really new. Because it is, if we want to build a new society, we need a new way to do politics. This is why I am DN25, and this is why I think DN25 is beautiful. But to do so, we have to work a lot. We can't accept and to remain DN25 as now it is, because everything should be renovated. And we have to start from mistakes we did during the European election in Italy, in Germany, in whatever place. We should start from there, and I think the work we can learn a lot from the work of Andrea in UK with the Citizens Assembly, and I will propose to do the same in Italy as well, because we need new democratic way, new democratic tools in Europe, but also inside DN25. I want to close to focus on the word accountability. We need to think about the word accountability. What is the NC? What is an electoral wing? What is the CC? Because there are a lot of different interpretations. Absolutely interesting, but we should to make a choice. So gently but firmly, carpe diem.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. Thanks, Andrea, Eleonora, Jacques, and Silvia, and all the previous candidates that have joined. Let me say here that we have tried to reach all candidates. We have sent messages, and some candidates have decided not to participate. It's not that we haven't reached them. Now, this is the end of the third Isegoria session, and I hope that all viewers can draw their own conclusions, and we all go and vote and have an informed vote on this crucial elections of the coordinating collective. Special thanks to all the people who have been behind the scenes. I have not been doing this alone. Emma, Vincenzo, Rosita, the UK NC, the Dutch, the French, the German NC, and the Italian NC has been working behind the scenes. And we hope to see you all at the CC, and we invite everyone to interact with each other. So with that, I will close end the live streaming, and thanks again for joining.
Thank you, Aris, for your job. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
And
you.
bye-bye.
Goodbye.